Hello everyone and welcome back to the FPL Family YouTube channel. I'm Sam and today it is Tuesday and therefore it is Jammy Pick day. Now for those of you that haven't watched a Jammy Pick video in the past, Jammy Picks are differentials owned by under 5% of the game, the players that will massively inflate your overall rank, the players that will rocket you up those mini leagues if they perform. Now every week I have a look at the fixtures, I have a look at the underlying stats and I think about which differential players I think are going to perform really well in the upcoming game week, and they become my Jammy Picks for the week. Now, as always, there will be 4 Jammy Picks in this video, and then I will make a decision on the overall Jammy Pick for game week 12. And at the beginning of next week's video, we will look back on the pick for this week and see whether they did indeed perform. And that is what we are going to start with, as always, this week. Now, last week's Jammy Pick, it was a good one, guys. It was Leandro Trossard from Brighton, the second highest scoring player in the game last week. Whoop, whoop. It's always nice when a Jammy Pick comes off. Only Gallagher scored more than Trossard did last week. So Trossard got an almighty 10 points. Gallagher got just one more. He got 11. He was 5th for bonus points across the game last time around. And he was also top for shots across the game week with 5. 3 of those were on target. He's now the 4th most threatening midfielder in the game. So Trossard was an absolutely brilliant Jammy Pick, if I do say so myself, for game week 11. Now let's see whether I can match up to that going into game week 12. Now, of course, game week 12, as with all game weeks that follow an international break, are a little bit more difficult to call sometimes. Sometimes we do see huge rotation across the players that have been away on international duty. Of course, we do then see some injuries coming back on the back of international duties, and hopefully we won't see any too serious ones this time around, but we did see Robertson get injured for Scotland last night. Now let's see what happens there, because Liverpool do seem to be the team that's been the most hardly hit by injuries so far this international break, and we'll just have to wait for Klopp's press conference later on in the week to find out how that goes. But indeed, if it is a bad injury, then maybe Simicast could have appeared in this video, as he is likely to start, and given that he is just 3.9 million, he is going to be a super cheap enabler if, as we are fearing, Robertson might have hurt his hamstring in that international game. So yeah, there's always a little bit of worry around internationals in terms of the injury, but then there's also a little bit of worry in terms of rotation if players have had long journeys. But this time around we have further complications with 3 new managers in the division going into this game week. Now, we have Eddie Howe, who's been a Premier League manager in the past now at Newcastle. What can he do in terms of fixing things for Newcastle? It's going to be a bit of a struggle for him, I think, but he's got to turn things around there. We also have Steven Gerrard now, manager of Aston Villa. Interesting. Talk a little bit more about Villa in a minute. And then finally, of course, Dean Smith getting fired from Aston Villa and then immediately hired by Norwich with the job of now keeping them in the Premier League. So all of that, of course, unsettles the apple cart as well in terms of new manager bounce, the potential for rotation of players, the potential for some players who haven't really been part of the previous manager's plans to come into their plans or the new manager's plans going forward. So all of this is a little bit up in the air, and until we've had our first game week and our first set of press conferences, we don't really know how that's going to affect us. So these are the 4 players that I have picked out as my potential Jammy Picks for this week. Oh, you're in my way there, Christian Benteke. Let's move that down a little bit. Okay, so these are, and in fact, let's just see if I can... Oh, I've gone the wrong way. There we go. Right, let's have a little look at these 4 then. So as you can see them along the bottom of the screen there, we've got Christian Benteke up first. Going to cost you 6.3 million and is currently owned by 1.3% of the game. So he is a nice, cheap enabler at a time where I think for most FPL managers we're struggling with the forward position, and we're struggling with who do we choose in that forward line position because nobody's really been performing in the way that we would want them to. Back-to-back returns in game weeks 8 and 9. We haven't had any returns from him since in the last 2 game weeks, but coming up against a Burnley side who've just kept 1 clean sheet all season. And Burnley have also been weakest from headed opportunities. They've conceded 9 opportunities in the last 4 game weeks from headers. Now, obviously, that's going to benefit, you would expect, Benteke with his height advantage that he has. So could be potentially a nice differential going into game week 12. Crystal Palace also on the crest of a wave right now, obviously playing really well, being very creative. The likes of Gallagher, we saw even in the game against San Marino for England on Monday evening, Gallagher was really, really impressive in his debut. Actually was unlucky not to get a goal in that game, off the post that I can remember. Really disappointing for him from that perspective, but his creativity, the confidence that he is playing with and the confidence that he will take from that international fixture back to Crystal Palace will be invaluable, and I think Crystal Palace will do really well this weekend. Next to Benteke, we have Marcus Rashford. Most expensive of my options in this week's Jammy Pick video. He's going to cost you 11.4 million. He's going to cost you 9.4 million. So he is definitely not cheap, and he is definitely somebody that if you want to go with, you have to think really carefully about that, because it's going to have a knock-on impact around what you can do with the rest of the team in a way that the rest of these picks just won't. Only owned by 0.8% of the game, and again, that is I guess it's in part because of the injuries that he's had so far this season, the lack of form that we've seen from him, because he just hasn't been available for Manchester United. So he's been returning from injury over the last 4 game weeks, and in the last 2 he's averaged around 20 minutes, but obviously now has had a couple of weeks of international break in which to recover, recuperate and get ready for game week 12. He has, though, in those 4 game weeks that he's been back, had a couple of goals registered, so he has had some form in a way that a lot of Manchester United players just haven't over the last few weeks. Now, part of the reason that I picked him this time around, of course, is because of the opposition. They play Watford in game week 12. Watford have been poor defensively. They have improved since Ranieri has arrived. They have improved. Obviously, they had that win over Everton. However, things have still been difficult for Watford, and I think it will continue to be the case against Manchester United too. So attacking returns could be on the cards there for the Red Devils. And maybe if you're looking for a real differential in terms of Manchester United, Rashford is one that's definitely on my radar, because in a few game weeks' time, obviously fixtures turn for the better for them. And then when you're looking to invest, if you can't afford the likes of Ronaldo, then maybe Marcus Rashford might be a nice option. Next to him, we have one of my boys in Emerson Royale, 4.9 million. So again, he, much like Benteke, is going to be one that you can afford to get in quite comfortably. He is owned by just 0.3% of the game at the moment. So when you look across that Spurs defence, obviously it is Reguilon, who is one of the more popular options, or is the most popular option. Dyer is also in there as well, that you could go with that slight bit of cheaper value from him, but much less so in terms of attacking returns. Royale has registered 100 touches in the final third in the last 4 game weeks, which again isn't bad when you look at his overall positioning and therefore where he is going to be and his ability to then get potential upside on his defensive points. It is definitely there. 1 goal attempt in game week 11, and of course kept a clean sheet in game week 11 against Everton, which is a massive improvement from Spurs on where they were before. So the Conte effect may be starting to happen. We did see Royale playing very much in those wing-back positions that we know that Antonio Conte likes, and that is part of the reason why he has made it into my Jammy Pick video this time around. His goal attempt, by the way, in game week 11 was with his head. Interestingly, then going into game week 12 against a particularly weak Leeds defence, that could be something that he could exploit. He also had 21 successful passes in the opponent's half in game week 11, which was the best across the Spurs defensive line. So again, some good underlying stats there for Royale, and he is somebody that could potentially offer some good value going into the next few weeks, particularly when we look at those lovely Spurs fixtures that they have now coming up. And finally then, with his new manager in tow, I have popped Ollie Watkins on this graphic. It's going to cost you 7.3 million, and he is currently owned by 2.3% of the game, so he is the most heavily owned of my Jammy picks for this week, but again, he is still a good differential. Faces a Brighton side without Robert Sanchez. Given his red card last time around, he is suspended. We are expecting Jason Steele to play as stated by Potter just before the international break. But without Sanchez, what will that mean in terms of the back line? I'm not expecting Brighton to be as defensively solid, and I am expecting Aston Villa to want to impress their new manager and to be better going forward. He has returned in 3 of the last 5 game weeks, so whilst Aston Villa have been off form, he has actually not been too bad, and he has been returning points for his FPL owners. 114 touches in the opponent's half in the last 4 game weeks. That's tied 7th amongst forwards, as well as 48 passes received in the final third. Again, that's 6th best amongst forward. So his underlying stats look okay, actually. I think all 4 of them have potential to be really, really nice jammy picks this week. But this week's jammy pick is indeed Ollie Watkins. I think that new manager bounce might be something that just tips me into his camp this week. I do think that with forwards not performing and with the lack of form that we've seen from some of the forwards going into game week 12, Ollie Watkins could be a really great differential. Going to cost you 7.3 million, so isn't as cheap as the likes of Tony, but is offering some good value when we think about the amount of returns that he's had over the last few weeks. With Steven Gerrard at the helm, I'm expecting an improvement in Aston Villa. I'm expecting to see some new manager bounce. And Ollie Watkins is young, he's energetic, and one of Aston Villa's better players. He also has the creativity of Buendia and Bailey behind him. And if Gerrard can get all of those things working together and get all those parts moving, that could be really positive. It's also interesting to note how many players they've had back behind with them over international break, because of course that affects their ability to train and work hard. But I do think Ollie Watkins could be a really nice pick this week. So let me know in the comments below who you think will be your jammy pick for game week 12. Who do you think is going to be the best differential for this upcoming game week? If you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. I will be back on Thursday with my top points pick video. And then again on Sunday with Lee for our live stream. Talk soon, guys. Bye.